What's going on, people, and welcome to Man Knows Football. You're here with myself, Guni, and a very special guest, Kenny Ken, for what is the first ever episode of the Transfer Talk Show. So let me welcome Kenny. Hello, Kenny. How you doing, bro?
Well, I'm looking at the title of the show, and I'm looking at Chelsea's prospective business. You know, we're hearing that Chelsea might be getting Haaland, and you might be getting Sol. You might have to sell a few players as well. You're giving Giroud an extended contract. We're hearing the same like the biggest elephant in the room in terms of youth football. Like not Odoi. Bayern Munich are sniffing again. Is Tuchel going to sell? I know Tuchel likes you know Hudson Odoi, but again, it's all about money and an outlay. And Hudson Odoi, he signed a 3-year contract, £180,000 a week for you guys. But is Hudson Odoi going to stay around and fight for his place?
I mean, it's a funny one with Hudson Odoi because Chelsea are actually linked with Jadon Sancho as well, although we are considered very much outside favourites.
Mm,
Now, my thing is that we know how much Hudson Odoi is loved over there in Germany
mm,
because it's Bayern, Dortmund, you name it, they all want him over there. And if Manchester United aren't careful, I was having a word with my mate the other day.
mm.
If they haven't at least wrapped up or come to some sort of an agreement in price before the Euros really kicks off, which is on our first games on Sunday, I think
Mm.
they could be in trouble because they've left this for way too long.
Well, if it goes wrong, they can't blame Woodward in it 'cause he's already he's already acknowledged, he's already announced that he won't be part of the chief executives at Man United. But I think again, it's it's if you look at the kind of people you have behind the scenes at Man United, so Man City and Chelsea, if you compare it to Arsenal and Man United, very poignant as well, is that if you have the best people behind the scenes, the best scouts, best negotiators, then what's happened is that players will come to you because simple reasons that you have to have the best contacts. And I think the best signing that Abramovich ever did was poach Peter Kenyon from Man United. Since then, you've just had always the best people. I know a lot of you Chelsea fans were divided about Michael and Malalo, but Marina Granovskaya, oh my gosh, she's like the Iron Lady. I think she's more scary than Margaret Thatcher.
Oh
But
yeah,
the business she does for you guys in terms of like, you know, you know, player recruitment, departures, and everything, and the way she's managed to do business as well. And I think the way Chelsea do business as well is like you look at your academy. Your academy isn't just about getting players into the Chelsea first team; it's about producing professional players. So they go out and loan, and then if you eventually sell them, that becomes your transfer budget, rather than Abramovich doing what he was doing before. From 2005 up until probably about 2015, where he was loaning you guys money, and then you guys got to pay him back. You're actually running like a proper business, and plus because of the trophies you're winning and the sponsorship you're getting, the TV deals, you're actually a more attractive proposition than Arsenal in terms of like you know more value. So again, that's good business. Man City as well, you know, they're doing the right things as well, getting the right people behind the scenes. So players they want, they get, except for Harry Maguire, who went to Man United for heritage. So it's a very poignant thing that Chelsea are doing, and and I think Arsenal need to take heed. We need to be copying you. We're not
definitely.
good. We're not gonna win any titles or getting in any Champions League qualifications unless we copy the Chelsea and Man City model. It's what's working. Arsenal Football Club has to swallow their pride.
Yeah, it's the game's completely changed. I mean,
Mm,
I can't really understand fans that complain and say, "Oh, this team's buying the trophy or that team's buying the trophy."
mm,
Well, money's being spent everywhere now. Do you know what I mean? And I understand that budgets vary between top teams and lower teams, but
mm,
that's not an excuse because you've got teams that are able to work within their budgets. For example, Leicester, they're able to
mm,
sign top quality for what we would consider dirt cheap prices,
mm, mm,
and they're able to make a profit of 3-4 times on the player.
mm.
So that's also a model that can be, sustained. But I thought that was going to happen when you bought in, what's his name? Mislintat, I believe his name is.
Well, I think with Sven Mislintat is that I think there was a kind of frustration as well because I know when I spoke to Spence after we got thrashed by Man City in the League Cup final in 2018, and I just after the game I said, "What's going on here?" I mean, this is not Arsenal football. What we're watching, and I said, What sort of player are you looking for?" He went up to me. He said, "We're looking for a box-to-box midfielder." And that's there was a kind of like clash between Swen, and obviously the new board, and then so he left, and then since then we've got Edu, we've got Vinay, and also got Arteta. Because if you notice that Arteta's been promoted to the team manager, which means he's part of the transfer committee at Arsenal, which involves Vinay, Edu, Per Mertesacker and Mikel. So when people say that it's not down to Mikel, it's down to the board, well, they tend to misinterpret that, and they tend to, misinform, not just Arsenal fans, but just football fans in general, when they say that Mikel doesn't have the autonomy. He does have that power now to move quickly and get the players. And we've outspent Chelsea net spend over the last 3 or 4 years. So when people say it's just Chelsea and Man City spend, well, Arsenal spent money. It's just that we haven't spent it well, and we've got the wrong people in charge of the most important thing, is the footballing affairs at the football club.
No, that I agree. And the situation around Arsenal regarding, I mean, it's more than transfers. It's just everywhere, top to bottom. But we are here to discuss 3 players actually that are on Arsenal's targets. And we're going to start with the first one being Ruben Neves, Wolverhampton player, 24 years old, and he is being quoted for a £34 million move to Arsenal. Personally, I think Ruben Neves is a good player. I'm very much aware of him from his days at Porto, because I know he debuted not long after he turned 17, and he also captained them very early. And in one of the games in the Champions League in Conte's season, when we were away to Porto, he absolutely bossed it against us. And I knew that there was some player there. But I was quite shocked that he moved to Wolverhampton. I expected him to move on to one of the top clubs. But nonetheless, he moved over to Wolves. He's shown what he can do in the Prem. How do you feel that he would fit in for you at Arsenal?
Well, the thing is, again, it's one of those things, like, obviously, one of the things that is going to attract him to, Arteta, is going to attract him to football, fans as well, is that it's Premiership experience. I think what Arsenal fans do not want is that they haven't got time to wait for a player to acclimatise to our game. It's not like the old days, like late 90s and early 21st century, where there was in terms of the transition between French football and English football, it was a seamless transition because of the kind of player we're going for. We're going for an athlete that could play.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind me saying so, the players we were looking at was, players from the Caribbean and, African heritage, in France that we're going to look to play. In terms of now, the transition isn't seamless because of the situation is that, our game has got faster and faster, more and more athletic, but also it's a situation where there is a bit of flair in it because we've got, managers like Pep Guardiola in the team. So in terms of Ruben Neves, he is a player that I was looking at. I ain't going to lie to you. I still had my heart set on Aouar, but in terms of I still think we need a number 8. I think what Arsenal need, and I think what Neves could give us, I need a midfield boss, and to the extent that I want someone who not can just control possession, but someone who can, like I said, accelerate our attack through creating chances. But I want someone who can actually have a bit of a goal threat as well.
Yeah. And
I think Ruben Neves is probably going to have that kind of aspect to his game more than probably Aouar, in terms of what I've seen with him before he got left out of the French squad and then what he was doing with Lyon. So in that respect, that is what we need. But I think in order for Ruben Neves to work, you're going to need a situation where you've got to have to give him protection, because if you look at Fabregas, when you had him at Chelsea, one of the things you did is you gave him protection.
Yeah.
So like I said, he gets in front, and then you had Kante alongside, Tante alongside him, and then you had another player. So you had 2 players who basically picked their turns to move forward, and then picked themselves to stay back. But Fabregas was always in that sort of that role where he was creating chances. It could be like a short pass, a long pass. You know, the long ball against Arsenal when you beat us 2-0. It was a Fabregas long ball. Diego Costa gets in front of the defence, lobs their keeper. So it's that kind of player we need. But I want a situation is that if we are going to get Neves or we're going to get Aouar, I want protection around him. So we've got Partey. So in order to give Ruben Neves a chance to do well, I want other protection as well. And I don't just mean someone who could play in midfield. I want athletes. I want an athlete, which we've got in Partey, but I want another athlete alongside him. I'm sure you're going to get to that in a minute with the next kind of player that I'm sure you're going to mention. But that's the only way Neves could do well for us is if he gets protection, and we get a style of play that is basically exhilarating our very, very expensive front three if they stay at the club.
I also feel with Neves for you guys, going back to his leadership, it is something that you do need in the midfield, and you do have that authority in Partey. And I do agree that with that extra kind of character in there, it will shore up your midfield. And another thing is with Ruben Neves that I like a lot about him is he's an all-rounded player in the sense that going forward as well, he is very devastating. He's got an eye for a brilliant pass. His range of passing is amazing. Also at set pieces as well, he's very, very deadly. I think, did he score a free kick against you lot this season?
I'd rather not talk about it.
Do you know what it is? It's just I just had a thought for a second.
No,
I
he
swear
actually didn't score a free kick. He actually scored straight after half time when we were down to 10 men, and then Leno contrived to get himself sent off.
I remember now.
I don't know where he had a Bruce Grobbler moment. Yeah, but yeah, yeah. He is a player that, and another thing as well. I think with Spirito Santo, leaving, although he managed to prize himself away from Crystal Palace, but with him leaving, there could be an exodus. Although Wolves have signed Largo. So again, you've got to move really quickly if you're going to want to get Wolves' players, because obviously over the last few years, as an Arsenal fan, I've looked at Wolves. I thought, right, I can have him. And when I looked at my hands, I realised that there was 5 players that I would love to have from Wolves.
I mean, that for a team like Arsenal, it shouldn't be that way, to say the least. The fact that you can go to a club like Wolves and say, well, these guys can actually walk into our squad and do a job and improve us.
So Leicester players, if you look at Leicester as well, a lot of Leicester players can walk into our squad as well. But you look at the situation. You spent a lot of money on Leicester's left back. So yeah. I think what.
I do feel with Leicester, that's kind of an exception to the rule, because if you look at their main back line now, it's arguable that you could say that is one of the best defenses in the league. Man for man, if you look at that back line, that is solid. If you go further forward as well, and especially the fact that they've just signed Soumare as well, their midfield looks quite solid. And then going forward with Iheanacho now picking up form, Leicester's actually not the team what people think they are. I think if they continue on with this sort of build, they're going to surprise people over the coming years.
I think what's happened is that I think one of the things that if you look at Leicester, I think maybe one of the reasons why they didn't get into the top 4 and at the last kind of minute, I put it down to fatigue. It was definitely fatigue. Even though we all came out from COVID, it was definitely fatigue. Last season, and this season I put it down to fatigue as well. And I think sometimes when you have a team like Leicester, you probably need a bigger squad where basically if someone's injured, you need to freshen it up. Maybe that if you had a bigger squad, that could probably get them over the line, because it was really close again. But again, they lost their last home game of the season this year to Spurs, the previous year to Man United, and it's just fine margins.
Yeah, it's unacceptable. I mean, some will say, oh, it's a Brendan Bottle job. I think it's a mixture of both, in my opinion. More so with the whole fatigue thing, because I do agree to finish in top 4, right? You need depth in your squad. It's not enough to just have a good starting 11 and have mid dross in your subs bench. You need depth in the squad numbers.
Definitely.
But I don't want to stay on Leicester for too long. Sorry, because I know
Of
it's
course
going to
not.
get late over there and it's early over here. So I'm very mindful of time.
Yeah.
Um, the next player, I quite like this guy. It's not Hosam Ua yet. It is Yves Bissouma.
I knew it.
I quite
Uh,
like him. But go on, I'll let you start with Bissouma, Ken.
I think in terms of Bissouma is again, I think what Arsenal have missed is kind of a partnership in midfield where you have a solid base, but you have kind of athletes. I think Arsenal, in my opinion, if you're going to want to change and get the top four or do well against the big teams, like the tiki-taka style that we had under Arsene Wenger when he broke up the Invincibles isn't working. The teams are just too powerful in midfield, especially the good side. And another thing as well, they press you as well at the game,
Yeah,
and it's very difficult to break the press. And I think that alongside Partey, he needs a partner, and then who can basically one goes, one stays, one goes. And I think Bizuma over the last 2 years, he's more than proved himself at this level that he is going to have a good, be a good acquisition. And we badly need that partner for Partey, because if you look at the situation, there's been a lot of criticism of Partey in terms of like him struggling to acclimatise to a game, but a lot of that is because he's probably doing two or three people's jobs. Because
yeah,
if you look at like Granit Xhaka, what Granit Xhaka has been asked to do is that sometimes he's playing a left back, but sometimes when Tierney like goes on his forays, invariably because we got players who are not disciplined defensively, Granit Xhaka's covering the left back. So if you've got Saka playing at left back, Granit or playing at left back and he's going forward, Granit Xhaka does it. So what it does is that when the ball there's a break and play, Partey he's out to do three or four people's jobs. So when he does get the ball, because the midfield's got a spare man, they're pressing him. So he is giving the ball away. He is making mistakes, getting caught possession. And I think that if he did have a partner like Bizuma, and then you had a player like Neves in front of him, I think what's happened is I think as a partnership, it'll get the best out of Partey. It'll also get the best out of Bizuma. But what will happen as well, we'll be more solid and be able to give our defence proper and genuine protection.
100%.
And I think that's what we lacked. I know people say, "Oh yeah, but your players have to be flexible." Well, look what happened in the Champions League final when Pep asked them, basically like link players to do the job that Fernandino could have done. Backfired, and I think that's what we need to do. Get a partner. Go back to the days of when we had Vieira and Petit, and I think Bizuma is definitely going to do that. I'm not particularly concerned about his goal, where he can score goals from midfield and whether we can have that same sort of situation with Partey as well. Not really concerned because their job, make us solid and give the creative player protection. And hopefully that's Ruben Neves. Nothing against Odegaard, but I generally believe that I ain't waiting around for him. I want someone who knows their league. And if it isn't Odegaard, it isn't Neves, and it's going to be Aouar. But Bizuma is exactly what we need in that midfield.
And what I like about Bissouma as well is just given his range of abilities, it just makes him so versatile in that midfield position because he's got it all in terms of technical ability. He's so technical. In terms of dribbling, he's so good at dribbling, and that in effect makes him quite press resistant as well. If you see him under pressure, he's quite composed. It's almost as if he already knows where the ball's going before. That's what every good midfielder is supposed to do. They're supposed to know where the ball's going to go before they receive it. But Bissouma, you can see when he's under pressure or if he's out of ideas, his technical ability can sort of get him out of trouble. And that's something I feel that is priceless, especially when you were saying against teams that, they're just going to relentlessly press you in that position. So to have him next to Partey, I definitely think will be a brilliant addition for you guys.
Well, definitely. But you look at the same thing. If you look at Liverpool, when Liverpool went back to the football that they played when they nearly won the league in 2019, won the Champions League and won the league last season, before Klopp had a brainwave in playing defenders in midfielders in defence. One of the things is that against teams like Liverpool, you are going to need a partnership between Bizuma, with Bizuma and Partey, because Liverpool, one of the teams where you've got players like Fabinho, and he's one of those, and you've got Jordan Henderson as well. One of the things they do really well is win the ball back,
Yes.
and then, or if you win the ball back and create pressure, and when they win the ball back, they know their fullbacks know come
Bomb
forward,
forward.
bomb on, bomb forward, and then what will happen is that Salah knows when to make that run, Mane knows right, boom boom. I know that whoever's marking me, like marking me, he's worried about me, but he's also worried about what's coming down the sides of Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson. So that kind of thing. In order to be effective, you need to win that midfield battle, and I think that's where Arsenal need to be effective. And if we do win that midfield battle, given with the press, and then have this kind of creativity with Neves, we'd be able to get much more out of our fullbacks, especially someone like Tierney. And hopefully, we'll get a proper right back, and that I think we'll be a better team. Personally, I think your biggest transfer discussions being managed, because I don't think he's the right man. I think we're going to pay next season if we keep him.
I agree. Personally, I've said I've never been a fan of Arteta being hired by you guys from the beginning, from the word go. To me, I was like, I mean, as a Chelsea fan, it's not in my interest, but as a football fan, and just because Arsenal fans have been going through it for quite a few years, and I've been a paying fan. You know what I mean? So I can put that fan bias aside of Chelsea and say, as a fan, this is not on. Do you know what I mean? So I do think that with Arteta, he needs to go. He needs to go. You guys should have hired somebody who's a proven winner, who could actually come in and change things. Because Arteta, the problem with him is that lack of experience has thrown him in a position where when he doesn't know what to do, he's stuffed because he's not been there before.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want at Arsenal. Or
but you got to realise one thing is that it mainly comes from the fans. There's a lot of fans who, like I said, who have trusted this process, said, oh yeah, and they want to go for this evolutionary measures, and they think Arteta is doing a fantastic job. So there's more fans who are backing Arteta than fans like myself who are asking for him to be replaced. But the thing is, if you ask them for a footballing reason, this is the footballing reason they'll give you. They'll say, oh, look at Everton. Ancelotti, he didn't do much better than us. He finished 10th. I look at Mourinho. You want a Mourinho? Oh, he got sacked the week before. Klopp was struggling. Oh, what were you saying then? So basically, their defence of Arteta is basically saying an experienced manager won't be able to, won't be able to do a good job, or they'll say it's not Arteta, it's the board. So any manager will struggle here. That's another footballing reason, which is when it's not a footballing reason. Or they'll say, well, a top class manager. No. There's no guarantees, but there is never any guarantees. But the thing with Everton, who bought Ancelotti, who hired Ancelotti, the genie's out of the bottle for Everton, because they've gone for Ancelotti, they have no choice but to go for a bigger boss. The guys who are paying the money are going to demand that they get the best in the business, because that's what they're paying for. Tottenham, now they've got Mourinho, can't go down that sort of that road like Scott Parker or maybe dare I say it, Sean Dyche. They can't do that because they've got Mourinho. So the fans are going to demand a big name. That's what they've been used to. And I think that's the thing with Arsenal, is that Arsenal fans don't demand to as much as I would like from the board or from the fans, because the minute Arsenal fans accepted Arsene Wenger's explanation that fourth was a trophy, and then when Wenger was clearly not up to it, they were using words like Wenger slander, how dare you, and then you should be grateful. Standards dropped, and even now they're saying Kroenke out. But how can the Kroenkes take Arsenal fans seriously if, one, they're using buzzwords like Wenger slander, and that you're spoilt by success, and we want to do it the right way. We want to do it a classy way. Chelsea ain't classy, and that it's financial doping in Man City and Chelsea. You can't. They're not ambitious. Some the fans are using that respect. And then the most important thing is they had an open goal. Josh Kroenke was at the Brighton game. You could have. The guys who had the 10,000 tickets could have made a protest. I'm not saying, like I said, cause trouble, but boo, shout, sing songs about Kroenke, make a gesture, probably walk out at a certain minute and say, we're not happy with what's happening. They could have made, and he would have seen that because the world camera was there, but they missed an open goal. So what I'm trying to say is that the standards have to come from the fans. Arsenal fans wait for Arteta to say, "Oh, this is how they're going to win the league," or the Kroenkes to say, "Oh, yeah, we want to do this." It's got to come from the fans. You've got to be the ones who demand the standards, not wait for the standards. And I think Arsenal fans, until they start demanding, like that, we follow the Chelsea model. We say we're fed up with, not winning the league. Then we're going to get these sort of standards. It comes from the fans, and it's got to transport the club.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, could you imagine if the Arsenal fans at that Brighton game did what Blackpool did? Because Blackpool, when they wanted their owners out, they weren't playing. They were telling away fans, listen, we're gonna be leaving the stadium on this minute, right? Please don't buy anything, don't buy any merchandise. We understand you're here to watch your team, that's fine, but please don't support the club. And it seemed to have worked for him. I know it's a different situation altogether. What is that? It's a different situation altogether over there at Arsenal. It's a massive club because it's a case of, okay, your main set of season ticket holders say, all right, we're not going. Then you've got another bunch of tourists that come in and say, all right, cool, we're just going to replace and we're going to sit down there. So it's like a cycle that's just going to keep...
Definitely. Like, Chelsea had that same problem now. I wouldn't call it a problem because, you're spending the diaspora of your club. But if you look at, say someone from abroad, say you're bringing say you came down to London and you're bringing some friends of yours from New York and they're going to say take in a game, and say you had your tickets and they went to Ticketmaster.
Yeah.
The two clubs in near the West End is Arsenal and Chelsea. In terms of like the attractive, so say the attractive clubs, to our cousins from abroad, because Arsenal, they've had Henri, Petit, they had the Invincibles, and it's a multicultural fan base. And then they'll say at Chelsea, currently they're the best. They just won a Champions League, and they also they've got a multicultural team. And they got an owner from not Soviet, from Russia. So again, they're both attractive propositions. But I think what's happening right now is that with the ESL, in terms of like the big clubs who are trying to with the exception of Chelsea and Man City, all of those four other clubs are trying to buy into the ESL, and then once they made their profit, they're going to sell the clubs in order to make a massive profit, and then get a massive price for the clubs. All four of those, Liverpool, Spurs, Man United, Liverpool were blatantly doing it. Chelsea, they just joined because they thought they had to be part of it. And the same thing with Man City. But what I'm trying to say, in terms of like legacy fans getting angry with the state of their clubs, what Arsenal fans had was an opportunity to actually organise a process of angling it. We're not happy with ESL, and I think it's out of order. But hang on here, Kroenke was a part of it. That's another nail in his coffin. Let's go and protest. So I think the momentum was very, very high. But I think in terms of like, you hear Arsenal fans, you go on every Arsenal show, or you speak to them, it's Kroenke out. Well, you've got an open goal here now. Let the Kroenkes know what you think. I'm not saying that you should, try and force them out. If they say they won't move, then try and hold them to higher standards. Tell them when they're there, this is what we're not putting up with. We want a challenge. We want you to hire the right people. We want you to make sure that when we're challenging, we're going to have a sustained challenge. We want you to show more ambition. And I think that Arsenal fans miss an open goal.
Yeah, but it's a tough one, and it's going to take a lot of work for the Kroenkes to get out of the club. And personally, for a club at that stature, I don't know how it's going to be done, man. I don't know. It's just like you said, it's the fan pressure. But it's from what I've seen, because I've seen the protests that have been trying to be arranged, and then the Weak Hair, the U movement and all that, and it doesn't seem to even faze them.
Well, the reason why it don't faze them is because I think what's happened, right, is that Arsenal, I think what's happened is that anyway, I think all these moments are done via social media. Now, if you, a lot of fans, you know, some of them hate social media. So what will happen is that if they're not going to know about this process, or they're going to talk about it, but it's not going to be in their face. Like the situation with ESL was in a new media person's face, because Sky, who basically had a vested interest, were going, wait, ESL. You had the most northern commentators, to appeal to the working class legacy fan, Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher. So they were basically, it was a con. It was basically an animal. It was basically like the French Revolution, where group.
I need to agree with you on that one, because there's something there that you said that might go over a lot of people's heads, and I know that for a fact over here, because they didn't understand what I was talking about. So Gary and Jamie Redknapp,
Jamie Carragher.
Okay, Jamie Carragher. Their accents, it's exactly like you said, appeals to the working man so much more than a London one does.
Yes.
So to me, I thought, you know what, that there was tactical.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
It's basically, you're trying to appeal to the legacy fan who you've been conning, because you, let's face it, obviously you live in New York at the moment, but when the new TV deals came along, and NBC in America, like Open Sports in Australia, Star Sports were basically charging in them, basically fining the Premier League and Sky, because what was happening is that they weren't getting the 3:00 kickoffs, which you guys live by. So what's happening right now is that Sky managed to take the hit, and so did the Premier League. But what's happened is at the beginning of the season, they wanted to charge us as pay-per-view. So basically, for the money that we had to pay back to NBC, Star Sports in Africa, and Open Sports in Australia, and beIN Sports, they tried to charge us £14.50, £14.99 to watch a game. Now, I fell for that because I love football, but that's what they were doing. And then you had a situation with the League Cup where you had to pay £10 to watch it on your phone or on an iPad. So basically, Sky Sports, right, have been exploiting the fan. They and then BT Sport were part of this, so they're exploiting the fan. And so what's happened is that for 29 years we've been exploited as football fans. Yet the minute they realised there was going to be a threat from the ESL, they knew full well that some from an American JP Morgan put £3 billion into creating the ESL, and the clubs were guaranteed an upfront payment of £330 million. They made sure that they thought, right, this is going to affect us, because obviously if you set up the league, then you're obviously going to be working with different broadcasters, which are not Sky. Sky knew this.
Yeah.
And so did the Premier League, and so did UEFA. So what they did is that they made sure that they went back to the working class man and made them think that they stopped all of this. But really, it was a pawn in the game. So I don't care. You're not going to get Jamie Redknapp from Bournemouth, his dad's an East Ender. You're not going to get, with all due respect, Alex Scott. No chance. You're not actually going to get Groomston, but you're going to get the guy from Sefton, Merseyside, with a Scouse accent, and you're going to get, like the guy from Bury, Greater Manchester, with a northern accent. So he's going to appeal and working class, even though they're anything but working class now. But it worked. It worked a treat. Sky worked, and then so basically the same sort of situation. It's the influence, and that influences non-social media people to understand if there's a protest. But We Care DU and all these like other things, they're not actually going to be that interested. So, for instance, you can have a big Twitter following, and it's all over Twitter, and everyone's liking it. But how many of those guys go to games?
That's true. No, you make a good point, Kenny. But before I get to, because this is an interesting topic, but I know I end up getting carried away, and I can sit here talking about this for hours.
Yeah.
But before I do that, we've got one more player. I love this guy, and this is a player that I would even love to have at Chelsea, and that's Aouar. I hope I'm not ruining his name, but he is an absolute baller. Go on.
See, the thing is, there's a bit of conundrum with Arsenal fans. Is that last season when him, he had some really good performance for Leon. Especially in a quarter final against Man City. Arsenal fans were all over it. Leon wanted a lot of money, big money, set us a high price. We couldn't meet their valuation. So, because our priority at the time was Thomas Partey. So, we managed to get Thomas Partey a year after we wanted him, but who somehow was always the player we want. Now, you kind of fast forward the situation. In terms of like French football, the French league, I think they've lost their TV deal with, in France. So the clubs are going to lose some money. And then Lyon didn't get into Europe last season, which they needed to win the Champions League this season. So they've lost a lot of money. So the valuation of the players gone down. But the players hasn't had a good season. So Arsenal fans are going, what do you want him for? He's only had 1 goal and 1 assist. I wasn't hang on here. He's still going to be a good player. What's changed in the year? So they don't want him. They wanted Buendia, and a player like Neves. So all of a sudden, Aouar's now not that great player, and then they substantiated their opposition to Aouar because he hasn't been made Deschamps' squad. But if you look at the French national side, it's not a case of who gets in, who doesn't get in.
Yeah, it's a freak of nature, that squad.
Yeah, but I still think in terms of what we need, I think he's a better player than Ruben Neves.
I definitely think so.
Yeah.
The only thing it doesn't do as well is the defensive duties. But
we wouldn't need him to do that though, would we?
It's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if we're going to get Bissouma to play alongside Partey, then what will happen again? It's all about protection, protection, and giving protection. Because one of the things that we struggled with last season, season just gone, is our goal output. You got a forward line worth about nearly £200 million. All of them were off form, as far as I'm concerned. Lacazette, he's our top goal scorer of 13 goals. But in terms of what we expect, we should be getting better. Pepe, and I'll say it was a great spectacle. When the pressure was off, he was fantastic. But when the pressure was on, he was inconsistent. So if you look at Arsenal fans, they look at his stats and his starts and the goals prepared, but it doesn't tell the full story. They're not talking about the times when he did struggle. So again, are they struggling because of the tactics or because they're struggling with form and maybe off the field things, or is it because they haven't got any creativity from behind? So we desperately need that kind of creativity. I know people say, you've got Smith Rowe. I do understand that, but when you've got top class players available and you haven't won anything for a while, I'm not all for this. We're blocking this player's progress. If the player's good enough, he'll play.
He'll play. Yeah.
How many Chelsea fans were complaining about the fact that you made acquisitions for Havertz and Ziyech? How many of them were going, you're going to block Mason Mount's progress, you're going to block Gilmour's progress? What's happened? Mason Mount's kept his place, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, the general consensus with that is, well, if Mace is good enough to play for Chelsea, they shouldn't phase him.
Yeah, but there's always going to be one Chelsea fan with that kind of mentality, because I think whether you like, you're always going to get legacy fans who are going to actually be more drawn towards players that have come through their ranks. Yeah, like for instance, he's one of our own. He's a Chelsea boy. Mason Mount's a Portsmouth fan. Everyone says Jack Wilshere's one of our own. Jack Wilshere supports West Ham.
He's a West Ham fan. Yeah.
I bet you any money that Bukayo Saka from Ealing weren't an Arsenal fan. But what's happened is that you feel an infinity for them because they've come through the ranks and we tend to latch onto them. But I look at it this way, man. It's the kind of like I said, the day-to-day run of a big club. Football's a dog-eat world. If you don't win something, managers are under pressure to improve their squad, and there will be casualties if you don't maintain the standards. Or, you may think, well, look, sorry, but this guy's better, and I have to get into Europe. So it's what happens. So as much as I'm a big fan of Smith Rowe, I'm not waiting around for him. If I think Neves or Aouar can make us a better team, then
you take
plays. Yeah, in terms of Odegaard, I'm not convinced. I still think that that he will go back to Real Madrid. And little I saw of him last season, not for me. I think this league's not for him. I think that in terms of like the creativity angle, I still think that Neves and Aouar will give us more in terms of creativity.
How else do you think Aouar would help your team, help you improve?
Well, again, it's a situation where it's those everyone thinks we need a number 10. I want a number 8.
Yeah.
I don't, because if you're playing a front three, which every team nowadays, especially the best teams, play 4-3-3. You don't need a number 10. Number 10's finished.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So basically, if you play a number 8, what you can do is that you can basically get him linked with a front three. And if he's linked with a front three, what we want to do is we want a situation where we give him his protection, he gets a bit of space, and then he'll create chances. But he can also get in the end of chances as well. So we don't want just creativity. We want a player who can score at this level. Obviously, I'm probably talking more about Ruben Neves than I am talking about Aouar. But what my biggest concern last season, and it's always been my concern, if Arsenal want to get the top 4, I want you need 4 players to be in a score about maybe between 10 and 15 goals a season, and I'm not, and so one of them has to be your midfielders, and the other, and it's got to come from your front three. Now you're going to tell me, well, Chelsea, we got in the top 4 where our top goal scorers only cost 7 goals. Yeah, but you did, but you're watertight defence after Tuchel went there. So basically, you got away with that because teams just couldn't break it down.
That's it, yeah.
Except for us.
I knew he was going to throw that one in there. Yeah,
it's true, isn't it?
Yeah, that one hurts the most.
And we're cracked.
You know why that one hurts so much is because I went to school in well, you would know. I'm talking to you like you're from New York. I went to Finchley Catholic High School. Right, obviously, you know that in North London.
Yeah, I know that area. I know that school. Yeah,
man, 90% of them were Arsenal fans, and it was during the time when you had your Invincibles team and that. So losing to Arsenal was just always terrible because I'd have to come in on the Monday morning, just have to hear about Henri, the Arsenal scarves are out, everything, and I'm just like, oh Christ. So I never liked losing against Arsenal.
And what's happened since then? Since then. For us to beat you since you won in the quarterfinal of the Champions League in 2004, we either have to play out of our skins or you have to play badly, because beating Chelsea is one of the hardest things we have to do. To get a double against Chelsea is just extraordinary, because of the fact that you're such a good team. And but let's face it, it was a gift. It was a gift from heaven, that goal.
Yeah, I mean. It was one of the, and I think one of the games as well the ball just wasn't on our turf, man. It just wasn't going right for us, man, at all.
Which one was the one at the Emirates?
Or am I talking about the FA Cup final when Kovacic got sent off? I'm talking about the FA Cup final.
Well, both finals. We've had who's it? Anthony Taylor, isn't it, as a referee?
Yeah, man.
love him. Sent 2 of your players off as well.
Yeah, man. When Kovacic got sent off, it was for nothing. It was for nothing, and I was like, here we fucking go again. I'm going to hear it from... Because, as well, most of my family were all Arsenal as well.
But come on. We need to get... look what you did to us in Baku. You basically ruined us. You humiliated us. For every FA Cup win, you guys could talk about Baku. I don't think Arsenal fans can ever live it down. It's
weird, because I find... Whenever we're off the back of a defeat of Arsenal, something good always comes off the back of it. Because there was obviously the 3-0 battering you lot gave us when we had Conte.
And then won the league.
Yeah, and then obviously after that we went and won the league. This year you done a double over us, and we went and won the Champions League. So I don't know, man. If that had to be the reason for us to win our second, then I'll take it all day long.
You know what? I was speaking to some Chelsea fans, and they're saying that we're kind of your bogey team, and in a way, we are your bogey team, because I think what it is that I think you guys try so hard to beat us because you see it as an embarrassment to lose to us. That I think what it is that we'll score, and then we just make ourselves difficult to beat. We just put men behind the ball. Yeah. I think that's especially that's how we beat you or avoid defeat against you. So we have managed to not so much get your number, but I think you've tried to beat us probably too hard, and you know, and I was going to say the Lampard angle, but you know, we beat you with Tuchel. But again, it's the same sort of situation as well. You guys changed your manager, we didn't.
It's funny, yeah. No, it's funny as well because I've got a partnership with a bar called the Football Factory, and there's a group of Chelsea fans down there. One of them's called Pat. He's actually from Kings Road.
Oh, right.
And every time he's an old fella, but every time I go down there, and we play in Arsenal, he's like, Guni, we can't fucking lose to this lot, please. The rest of them in here, they don't understand. But you get it. We can't fucking lose. And he's always on edge of his beer, like, come on, Chelsea. If we lose, forget about talking to him. He's out before the final whistle. You can't find him.
Well, I think what's happening is that you know, like there's the discussion between both sides. Is that in terms of like a lot of football people who are outside London, and maybe a few Chelsea fans, and maybe a few Arsenal fans, they think the discussion shouldn't really be happening. But there's always this kind of discussion: what is London's biggest club? Is it Chelsea or is it Arsenal? And I think what's happening is that some Chelsea fans that weren't sure when you won the Champions League in 2012. You haven't been sure for a long time, but you're sure because you won the second Champions League. Now, Arsenal fans have already waved the white flag long before you won the second Champions League, and I'm one of them. But it is a topic of discussion because, you know, it's what quantifies it. Because on paper you've got you know, not in terms of stadium, but in terms of fan base, you could argue, well, we've got a lot of new fans because of that success. You know, in terms of value of the club, well, yeah, we're more valuable because we won more. We played in the Champions League more recently than you have. So, again, it's an argument that really, truly should be an argument. But, again, it's because of what we've won, you know, and the fact we've won, you know, like 2 doubles and we're doing the invincible. That's probably why people are still having that discussion. But for me, at the moment, I'm waving the white flag.
So okay, well I won't ask the question because I know it's a bit of a sensitive one because you're proper Arsenal. I don't know how long you've been supporting Arsenal, but you're a proper Arsenal through and through.
Yeah,
that much I do know. But that's a discussion that's always up in the air, man. You know, football again. It's a game of opinions, really. When it comes down to it, like for me, I can see why some fans would say London's still red. I can see why fans would say London's blue. So that's the beauty of the game. There's always a topic of discussion about it, you know?